Welcome, Tangle friends. This is days 4, 5, and 6 of Inktober Tangles 2023. And as you can see here, I went back and did a few things to my little plaque here. I decided to choose sort of a medieval script because for me, this whole thing is kind of evolving like a woven leather breastplate from a medieval knight, and I'm loving it. So I also added some gold, and I might do some more. One thing we didn't talk about last time was the shading here, which we can actually wait until the very end. Whenever we have these crossing over each other, there's going to be a drop shadow, just like with Hollabah. But we'll talk about that at the end. Let's see. So let's get our pencils out and go ahead and do our next tangle, which is a beautiful tangle called Sunbelt by Jody Genovese. And I must say, I did not warm up to this tangle at first. I was having a really hard time with that intersection here. This is my tangle tag, my step out. Trying to figure that out. I guess I was looking at something too small when I printed out my step out. So this is how it goes, and I have a really cool twist on it. Attention, Susan Moen. She is a Zentangle teacher in Sarasota, Florida. A fun new friend of mine that I met at Tangle U in April, and she owns a shop called the Crystal Cave. I'll put a link to it below, and this one is for her. So let's go ahead. Since this is a band tangle, or kind of a border tangle, it's going to work perfectly in a nice long area that I've chosen this for. I'm going to go about here with my next join and start up here and jump off, make my apple core, and then top off like that. Getting my PN, and I'm just going to ink that. Unfortunately, I'm still rigged up here in a kind of temporary way. I have put in a request for a new camera. They need to honor my warranty, but it'll be a while before this all gets figured out. So in the meantime, I'm using my iPhone to tape this, and I don't have quite the room that I would to swirl things around like I did with my document camera. So number one, what do? I always forget. We want to make that aura line on either side. And then I'm going to do a zigzag right down the middle. I'm thinking about 4. So I'm going to start 1. Want to make them sort of like equilateral triangles. Well, they're not a triangle, it's a zigzag, but we want to make them sort of same in size. So there's my zigzag. Next step is really kind of mindless. I loved all the steps until I got to the very end. And I'm going to keep my black pen, but I'm going to change it up to an 01. And here we're just going to make little triangles at the point. Think of this as being the bottom so that they're lined up flat. So triangle, flat bottom. Now I've practiced this so many times because you have to be a master of the tangle before you can teach it, and I really wasn't mastering it for a long time. I can do this without turning my paper, but I want you, if you're just learning this, to go ahead and turn your paper and do the same thing up here. Then our next step is we're going to find the valley right here, and we want to make a tall cone shape or zag, another triangle, a very elongated triangle, using these as a guide, like this. Stopping at each of the corners respectively. So let's do that again. Find the valley. Every time there's a valley, we're going to do an elongated triangle up. Those are like the sun rays. And turn your tile. Valley. And just use this as a guide. Stop where you can't go anymore. And our next step is we're going to make another set of triangles, but this time they're going to be down here in the valley. So I'm using this as a starting point. Turn your paper or your tile, whatever you're working on, and do the same thing. Here's the valley. I'm going to do another little triangle in there. So this is where it got sort of hard for me, but it's really not hard. We're going to now make these lines within the midsection of our sunbelt by following this open area. Let's start off here to the left and we go down. And then here's another open area. Once you get this, it is just the coolest tangle. I love it. It's going to be, going to really become one of my go-tos. And now let's turn our tile and do the same thing. Here's the opening. You always stop at that center triangle. We did that one. Here's another opening. So we have, do you see this double line going on? Looks like a very complicated interwoven pattern, and I absolutely love it. Okay, this one, go here. This one here. Might not be hard for some of you. I don't think like this very easily. Now in here we're going to just do perfs or pearls. I'm going to make them nice and squished from edge to edge so that we can make a pretty spherical shading on them. And then what do we always do when we do perfs like this? We want to fill in that interstice in each of those corners. Now I'm doing this totally in black today with a little bit of accents with my colored pencils. You'll see when we get that far. But I think this is just so stunning in black and tan. I played around with it with the henna or the Indian red, and this is the look I'm going for. But you do whatever you want. Now we can also fill in these interstices here, right? These little initial triangles that we made. Because what it does, it makes it look like these zags are just growing up out of some depth in this border. What I am going to do is going to take that pen and then just going to accentuate this line here. And that's going to be where our shading goes, right? Just here and there. A little lively line. Okay, now comes the shading, but before we shade, I'm going to show you my twist on this pattern because I kept looking at this going, okay, oh, first of all, one more thing we haven't done, which is part of the step out. You do want to do an aura line like this. And you see how that then interconnects this woven part? Looks like these zags are woven through this strip. It's just a brilliant tangle. Once I got it, man, I loved it. So this would be a perf, partially. Now, this is my twist. I'm going to go on this side since we have full triangles. This is just a fragment that we've all learned and I've done so many times. I'm going to divide this up into sort of like two triangles. Put a dot in the middle, pull the line here, here, and here. Dot in the middle. That was a little off, but look at that. Looks like a faceted crystal. Let's do that again. This is where you have to think. This would be the half of the triangle. And over here, similar. That's about all you can do for that one. And now comes the fun part, the shading, right? I'm going to start with my 3B pencil, my graphite. This would be the dark side of the crystal. And then this would be a highlighted side. And then here's another dark side. So here I'm basically just coloring in. The outside, I always think of the light coming this way, right? Just because that's my botanical background training. And then this would be in light, and then this would be down in the valley, and this would be hitting the light again. I am going to do a little bit of that spherical comma shading here. You could do the pearls first in white and then some shading, whatever is easiest for you. And remember, always have your kneaded eraser around, because if you think you've gotten something a little dark, like I just think I just did, I'm going to lift it a tiny bit. I am going to blend this down just so that it gets into the tooth of the paper. And I think these triangles here would be jutting up and catching full light. So I'm not going to shade those, but I am sort of shading them in that I'm going to put a little graphite on either side of these bands where it seems the zag is woven through. It's kind of like we shade on halibut. So that will really lift this whole thing up. And then another area that we can shade in is down here. And now I'm going to add a little bit of my brown ochre, just indicating a little bit of color as if it were reflecting off of this tan in our paper. Just here and there. Then comes the wow factor, the fun part, and that is adding white to these areas where there would be reflected light. And that's right over the top of that tan, which is fine. We want it to be very subtle. And I'm going to go on in and hit these pearls. So what we could do, I'm going to do it. This is just on the fly. I'm going to color this in, that tan color, because, or the ochre, it's the brown ochre. That really does make it look like that light is reflected into the crystal from this tan. This is such smooth paper, you almost don't even need to burnish it down. What is burnishing? Burnishing is just pushing that color into the tooth of the paper. But I am going to burnish it. Often I use a solvent blender, but this time you could easily use a, oh, now it's in the other room. You could use just a colorless blender pencil, which I'll use later. It's in the other room and I'm all wired up and I can't move, or else my whole camera setup is going to just fall. So I'll just burnish it down like this. And then the fun part is adding that sparkle. We could also take our white charcoal, and if I don't like it, I can erase it. I'm going to add a little bit of General's white charcoal in here. Mr. Pearl. And then I'm going to take my white tortillon to blend that. Trying to stay away from the graphite. How pretty is that? Isn't that so medieval? I just love it. And then the icing on the cake, of course, is take your jelly roll and put that, just put some little reflective light highlights in there. You could even put a dot here and there on these to make them look like jewels. Okay, I think we'll call that one finished for now. And we're going to go on to our day 5 tangle, which is another beauty. Day 5 is Neyu by Emiko Kaneko. Kaneko, I'm not sure, but it's gorgeous. Another stunner. I just am having so much fun with this Inktober Tangles that I can't get enough of it. So building on our Crazy Huggins, let's see where we could put Neyu. This is a great tangle, of course, as a, let me show you my sketch page, because it's a great tangle to do in a border, but you really almost need a lot of space for it. So here's a little variation. Here's another sort of variation. I'm going to look to put it in our Crazy Huggins in something about this size. And it's such a beautiful tangle. I'm going to really make it a focal point, and it would work nicely adjacent to this. So I'm going to take this area, make my apple core, starting with the top two, right? And I'm going to make it sort of squarish. So maybe go over a tiny bit. See if I'm going to like this. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay, let's ink that out. And then I'm going to get my graphite pencil out, because even though this is not part of the step out, we start out with these seed shapes, right? These little seeds. This is my step out on my tangle tag. But the hardest part for me on this tangle, to get it to really be able to see the lacing, was to put those seeds far enough apart. And to do that, I made a triangle so that I could place my seeds in a guide to make sure that there would be plenty of space for that weaving to happen, the overlapping laces. So from that point, I'm going to start building my seeds. Take your time. Turn your paper if you need to. And if these ones have to be smaller, no big deal. They can be smaller. Now comes a very important point that I missed originally. You're going to take this line and bow it out as if you're going to try to meet up with this little point, but you're going to stop. Then you're going to take, from this side, we're going to oar that line. To make a lacy loop. Then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to look at this inside line and bring it to the tip of the next seed. Again, we're going to start oaring around. And then we're going to meet up with this line here. We're going to continue doing that every time. We're going to take the inside line, that's the inside here, draw it to the tip of the next one, start oaring, and meet up with that one. Always remembering to draw below behind. I'm going to turn this for myself because my hand is not comfortable the way I'm doing it right now. So I'm going to take the inside line, draw it to there, do my aura, and then we're only left with joining these two. And what did I do? I forgot to do this. I can't believe I forgot that. I do it all the time. I have a choice. I could continue, I could do it, that oar line here, but I think I'm not, because I'm going to do different treatments in there, and that'll give me more room to work. So now comes another point, another thing that I forget all the time, and that is making our pearls. And there are variations. We're going to make a pearl right here in the center. And then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, ooh, that got wonky. This one's quite big. Now, if you have these huge spaces, you could just do a crescent, which I did in my sketchbook, and then you could also oar the crescent to make it look like yet another loop. But I'm going to keep it like this, and then we're going to build on that our petals. And I will go ahead and fill these in. And then the other part of the step out is to fill this in. You can vary that. You don't have to fill it in. You could make it a different color. You could leave it open. I'm going to fill this in because this is going to be another stunning black and tan, sort of like follow through with this, but with a transitioning tangle. So, and I'm going to get actually my Graphic 1 pen out for this. If you have one laying around, it just makes the fill a lot faster. What I should have done is pull this all the way to the corner like that. I did it in a sketch here, which I really like. And since I did not do that, I think I'm gonna fill a little bit of this space with some other pattern, like some flux leaves. Let's see. You don't have to do this. Since I didn't do that or line, we have a little space to decorate with. This is very time consuming, but I think it's so worth it. And it gives you a lot of that just relaxation time. Just to enjoy the pen on the paper. These little tendrils are kind of like little Hollis strokes. Hollis is a tangle by Rick Roberts. Okay, I can go back in there and get that all polished up at the end. But now we want to shade. Let's go ahead and take out our graphite pencil and shade around. Now there's one thing you could do. You could do here with your black. You could do something like that. And I did that on this one. But I'm not particularly liking that. I'm just going to do the shading like this. I am going to first erase whatever was left of that diamond in there, and then go ahead and start shading. And this is sort of like we often do with our flowers. We're going to put some down here at the bottom and a little on, let's do some on one side, and then we can always pull some over. We want this to look ballooning and spherical. Well, not spherical, but three-dimensional. You do want to save out that area because when we put the white in, it sticks better than if you could have to go over it with the graphite. Go over the graphite with it. So, see how that's three-dimensional? The other shading that we have to do, for me, I think, is where these laces are crossing over, just like with a Celtic knot. See how this is crossing over? We're going to put a little bit of graphite on either side of the laces to help lift them from each other. Makes all the difference in terms of believability, right? I might shade my little fluxes a little bit, just ever so slightly. Oh, missed a space. I think this time, since these are so big, I'm going to fill this in with colored pencil first. Graphite goes over colored pencil pretty easily. I mean, I won't be mixing that gray, in fact. Start over. There's all different ways to make these pearls. It's a little dark. You can just lift and reblend. So now we're going to knock that darkness down with some white. You can use either colored pencil. Let's try it. Here's my colored pencil. Or you can use General's white charcoal. The colored pencil you pretty much don't even need to blend, but white charcoal pencil you do to get it into the paper. So the white is not as bright as if you use the colored pencil. So I think I'm gonna go over that with colored pencil. And you can use any colored pencil you have, but I have to say I love my white Prismacolor pencil. It's buttery, it's smooth, it blends better than the Faber Castell, even though Faber Castell is my favorite colored pencil. But there are certain things about the more buttery colored pencils, such as Prisma, that are great. And one of the things is blending. Starting to look really, really good. Now I'm going to just work that graphite back a tiny bit over. This is where you can spend lots and lots of time or not. Now on this, I do like having a little bit of white on these. You could also do that with your jelly roll. Oh, I forgot. Such a small surface, and yet I still forget stuff. Then the fun part again is let's put those highlights right on top of the whitest part of our little pearls. And I'm going to add, actually on my one, I did gold jelly roll on the dots. And one more thing, just like with this other one, I want to pick up that gold theme going on here. I'm going to add a little bit of this brown ochre in the whites, just to give it a little bit of color, just a hint, but it makes it look so antique. You could also use your reds if you're going for that look. You can do either one. But I'm really trying to be transitioning up from this other one. These are just decisions I make on the fly. Okay. Now it's time to get my gold pen out. You can also do a little bit. You could make these dots white, but I like the subtle look of the gold. The little sparkle ties in with our border here. And if you think you got too many, you can always go over that in black when it's dry. Okay, everyone, now we're ready for the third tangle for the day, which is day 6, Maritus by Debbie New. It's another beautiful tangle that I'm brand new to me. It's very floral, so of course I love it. And I'm going to put it right here next to this one, and I'm going to make it kind of wider at the top so that lotus kind of shape will fit in. It's not all going to fit. It's going to be over. It's going to be cut off somewhat, but that's okay. Don't want to go too far down. So always think apple core, right? This time, yes, I am going to start with the black. And I am going to use my PM with a light touch because I want it to go, I want this to look like it's growing up out of this area here. So I'm going to go up pretty high. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to turn it around so that I have a little more space for it to open up. So you want to start at the narrow end of your Huggins. I'm going to make like a big, tall, slender leaf shape. Very elegant. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to make my little scallops. This is the Tangle Maritus, and there's a really nice write-up on Debbie's blog about her inspiration for this, so go take a look. You do want these lines to line up. I can tell I'm getting tired, getting kind of sloppy. Okay, then I'm going to get out my red pen. I always call it red. Sorry guys, it's not red, it's brown, but it's that brownish red. And we're going to do our next step with that, which is to make the kind of leaf shapes. No, it's not very juicy. And she has 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in the back, she does this kind of, there's 2 different ways. You can either weight the ends of these like this, or I have seen it done a little bit differently, and I'm going to do it this other way that I saw. I'm going to put little triangles here as if there's another set of petals back there, right? Like it's a cup. But I'm making these, I guess I could do them in the same color and then just really shade them. Do you see what I mean? It looks like this is a cup and it's the petals are folding out. And I noticed that in the step out, she put some line weight here. Good idea. Line weight is always good. Especially if you mess up like I just did. And I put a little, just everywhere, a little bit. And I'm going to make some of these lines a little bit heavier. Then I'm going to shade. And the shading, oh, can you believe it? I did it again. I forgot. I did it again. This time I'm going to put it in. But I'm going to put it in back here. I forgot to do the aura line. But that's okay because we've really got no room here. So I'm going to just put that in here like that. This is my hardest thing because I get going and I'm excited and I want to keep just drawing and I forget that line. So let's shade these a little bit at the bottom. I'm using my Indian red. You can use henna, any of those reds that you pulled out for your project. I'm going to put a little on either side of these lines because it looks like this petal is in the front and this one is in the back. Right? And then I'm going to blend that out with my colorless blender. I'm going to put some down here too. And then we're going to shade this. What I'd like to do is shade a little bit around the scallops. And a little bit more on this side than this side, because that would be more in light. And then this will get a little bit as well. And this hasn't quite filled up the space, but I do love that really stunning black background like we've got here. So I'm going to do a little bit pretending that we know what's going on here with another leaf or another Maritus. I'm going to just go like this, and we're going to have overlap. And my brown pen. So that'll just fill up that space a little bit, make us not have so much black. And then I guess we could do another in the corner. There. And don't forget those little back sides. And then with our white colored pencil, which I am going to sharpen because sharp pencils are everything. Such a beautiful flower. And since I'm going to fill this in black, I am going to make a line down here so that it doesn't get confused with that other pattern. It doesn't run into it. No mistakes in Zentangle. We just live with what we do. And this is too big. Okay, that is day 6. Maritus by Debbie New, CZT. There we have 4, 5, and 6. How lovely is that? I just am having so much fun. I hope you are too. I will see you in a couple of days whenever I have a few moments. Yesterday I couldn't post because I went to town. I went to a city nearby, which is about an hour away, so that I could do some big grocery shopping and other errands that I can't do in our tiny village. So I'm not going to be doing this under shading here yet, and I'm not going to fill these in. I'm going to just wait and have an overall look of our finished piece and then do those final things, and that will be up to you how you want to finish yours out too. So hope you had fun today. I see where we could add some highlights, maybe with gel pen. Somehow even the white colored pencil seems to disappear. Have a great time finishing this up and maybe playing with some variations, and I will see you in a few days. Bye for now.